Hey, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your Steeler Nation podcast, part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network and sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, Stryker, and today I'm joined by podcaster Kelcey Coyne of the High Low Sports Podcast. Kelcey, 3 times a charm. I had to do all these edits so we look good. But how are you doing? Oh, Kelcey Coyne of the Irish clan of the Coyne clans. How you been?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Glad to be here. Glad you asked me to come on.
No worries, man. It's like we started going back and forth so quick. We had to figure this thing out. So tell us quickly, and where in the country do you currently live?
So, yeah, I actually just moved to Steeler Nation might not like this, but Cleveland, Ohio. So, AFC North rivals. You mentioned the Coyne clan. That's actually where the Coyne clan come from Pittsburgh and Cleveland as well. So kind of return to roots here.
Excellent. Well, that's great to hear. Yeah. And you're tell us a little bit about High Low Sports Podcast, what it is and what you guys tend to cover.
Yeah, so we're more of a general sports talk. So we cover what is hot at the time. So right now it's NFL, NBA starting up. We just did our season previews for that. Yeah. But really NFL is kind of our big ticket. That's what we do most of. College football. We'll occasionally hit baseball and soccer as well, but for the most part, it is just what's hot at the time.
Cool. So the interesting thing and the reason why we've been talking back and forth is because you're going to be in Pittsburgh for the game this week. So tell Steeler Nation what's going on.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Colorcast reached out to us to come do this. So we're actually going to be in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field with you at Steeler Nation Tailgate. Nice. And we're going to be giving away a Troy Polamalu signed jersey through Colorcast. I mean, can we ask for a better opportunity? I mean, look, I love the Flying Hawaiian more than probably most people who grew up a Notre Dame fan should be a fan of the Flying Hawaiian, but a big fan, and then getting to do it in Pittsburgh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I'll show this picture here quickly because I wasn't expecting to go to this one first. So we'll go to this picture now. Here's the what's going on with the podcast currently. Chromecast, if you jump on and you follow the is that zooming in for you too? I'm not sure.
No, it's just the whole page.
Okay, perfect.
You can read it though.
But yeah, we'll be live. High Low Sports Podcast is going to be there live on the @Colorcast app. So make sure Apple heads, if you got an iPhone, if you got an iPad, download the app. The Colorcast app is really cool because then you can talk and interact live and be part of the show, like as it's going on, either cheat or get in the hot seat and talk. So it's really, really a neat way to do podcasting. So they're on location all day leading up to the game for the Steelers Seahawks. And of course, they're teaming up with @Grid Gallery Pod and myself @SN Stryker to give away the signed Polamalu jersey. Follow and enter. And here are what you have to do to follow and enter. Oh, and I clicked on the wrong thing. And now I'm full screen on this. Man, it's my old AV days, hearkening back to when I used to be able to find things and do the switching. And when I had my degree there for a second from the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. There we go. Now it should pop up and close in a little bit. So it's not closing in on us. So I'll just have to pull up, but make sure you retweet and repost. I'll have this up on the podcast page itself. Tag 2 friends and @Colorcast app. Follow @Colorcast and then download and tune into the Steelers Tailgate show. And Kelcey, I think you're going to be the one announcing it live during the game then, correct?
Yeah, so we're actually going to announce it right before the game, right before kickoff, about an hour before kickoff, and hopefully you'll still be on the call, the cast with us there as that co-caster. And also just to kind of help people out to download the app. Don't worry, if you guys are actually going to be at the tailgate, we'll be handing out some beers, and on the beers there'll actually be a little QR code that you can scan and download the Colorcast app.
A beer with a QR code. So
little something we're gonna pick up, getting a couple icy lights, getting a couple Yinglings to hand out while we're down there. So
I got to go Pittsburgh strong. I'm going icy. Not gonna lie. And Steeler Nation, just so you know, we aren't lying about this giveaway. I've got something in my lap to show you. I've got the jersey in hand. The signed Polamalu jersey. I'll be bringing this with me to the game since I'm going to be co-casting down there with Kelcey. This is a beautiful signed jersey. Everything is stitched on. All the logos and the everything looks like it's stitched on. It does not have a Steeler logo on the front, but everything on the back is good, and it's got the stretchy arms here too as well. So really, really sweet jersey. Thank you very much to Evan also over at Colorcast app and COLORCA.ST if you want to go check out the website as well. They've been really great partners and helping us to promote all things Colorcast. So really, thanks so much, Evan, for the awesome Polamalu jersey, and good luck, Steeler Nation. Make sure you sign and tweet. I'm going to have those tweets posted here tonight too and tomorrow, so we can start getting that going.
Yeah, and definitely keep out for. There's going to be a banner up on the side of one of the walkways as well. So where you guys have so be on the lookout for that too. You guys can take a picture with that. I know Evan's talking about it. He literally was like, "You guys need to take a picture in front of it. This, that, and the other." And now the fans out there need to do the same thing.
Right.
That way you can send it over to Colorcast, tag them in it. You might get a little some kind of swag maybe in the mail.
Nice. And to tell you guys the tailgate that's going on that we're going to be a part of, it's with Stiller Gang. It's called the Terrible Tailgate. It starts at 3:30 in Red Lot 5A. It's directly catty corner from the Pirate Stadium. So if you go to the edge of Pirate Stadium, the corner closest to the Steelers Stadium, walk catty corner across that intersection, you're hitting exactly where the tailgate is. And it's going to be awesome because they're going to have Jeff Reed is going to be on site, signing autographs, having fun with us. Performance by at Stunna2Fly, open bar, beer, DJ, food, and more. Sponsored by Get-Go, Hampton Beer, Pittsburgh. Wristbands are available from Eventbrite. So follow that link on Steeler Nation, at Steeler Nation on Twitter. And you'll be able to link right to it. I think it's $25 a person, all you can eat, all you can drink. There's great QR codes on the beers. So have a lot of fun with us. I'll be there. Kelcey will be there, and we'll be all ready to have fun and getting juiced up for that night game.
Oh, cannot wait, man. Night games in Pittsburgh. It's been something I've dreamed of for a while.
Oh, nice. Have you been to a game in Pittsburgh yet?
So I have been to the complex of Heinz Field. I have not been inside during a game. I've been on the tour. I was actually at PNC Park for baseball.
Oh, nice.
Many times, but never actually into Heinz Field at this point in time.
Oh, cool. Well, welcome to there. I love PNC Park as well. I think it's a gorgeous stadium. I wish the quality product was on the field, but my goodness.
Back the last time I was at a PNC game, at a game in PNC, they still had McCutcheon. So
good.
I was definitely rooting for Captain Clutch himself.
Nice. Nice. And I guess moving on for the goings on for this week, I wanted to share something here too, since we have the audio visual capabilities here with the DK Pittsburgh Sports network as well. So I get to share screen, and I'm starting to utilize some of my, like I said, my old broadcast days. But one thing I wanted to share was right here, and it was Juju Smith-Schuster giving us the thumbs up yesterday after going through that shoulder surgery. Many prayers to Juju. I mean, way to keep your attitude up and keep a positive attitude. We all know he's going to be out for the season. He's going to be placed on IR sometime this week. I hope it's also in a corresponding move where we're pulling one of our people off of IR, hopefully Zach Banner, possibly Anthony McFarland as well. So we've got two quality potential people to be pulling off of IR this week.
Yeah, there could be Stephon Tuitt too. But yeah, this injury, first of all, like, say what you will about Juju if you're not a fan, if whatever, for his TikTok antics. Yeah. You never want to see somebody go down like this ever. I mean, I love watching him play. He plays with a lot of heart. Yeah. And that's, sign me up for a guy that plays with a lot of heart any day of the week.
I know, man. So. And at least Stephon Tuitt isn't activated yet for practicing for IR. I'm not sure the rule of being able to go directly in to the roster because you have to assign the 21-day window first. But he has been seen in Pittsburgh. He's back in Pittsburgh, and that was reported not last Friday, but the previous Friday. So it's good to hear that he's at least back in the Berg and hopefully starting to work toward getting back here soon, because I know Steeler Nation can't wait to see him back on the field.
Man, I know Cam Hayward can't wait to see him back on the field.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, especially with losing Tyson Alualu, which we weren't expecting to lose this year. He also being in the same boat as Juju Smith-Schuster, because both of these players had the opportunity to go elsewhere this offseason. Ben takes a pay cut. They have more money to spend now, and they were able to retain a guy like, and fortunately he got COVID as well too. I think that was the reason why, because he was about ready to sign with Jacksonville Jaguars, got tested positive for COVID before he was able to travel and sign the contract. Whole team convinced him to come back. And then, it breaks my heart to see a guy that give it up to go back to his hometown team for one last ride, toward the end of his career, and unfortunately come down with that horrible injury. Same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster, he had the opportunity to go play ball with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. They made him a higher offer, or go with the other MVP with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. But no, he said, no, I'm going to ride and die with Big Ben in my last season over at Pittsburgh. I got my brand there. I got my peeps there. I got my roots there, and we love him. I mean, obviously he lights up every room he's in.
Yeah, he's a fantastic person to have on the team. He's one of those, TikTok antics aside, and I only say that because people made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Really, to me, I'm like, that's a kid having fun. You still think he's still what, 23, 24, 25 now at this point in time. Yeah. So give the kid a break at this point. Like we've all done that. I mean, how many times would you sit there and goof around with your friends and have a good time if you're playing the game of your life? Like you're out here putting up numbers, having a blast. Like, man, Juju's a great guy to have around, and it is so unfortunate to see him go down with injury.
And I'll add on top of that too, Kelcey, Juju is a positive influence on social media. We had Antonio Brown for a while, who was a negative influence on social media. The guy was a train wreck. Yeah. And still playing. He's starting to play back at a high level down there with Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Go Buccaneers!
Yeah,
and that's bandwagon Buccaneer bucko bastard fans we see now. I start to see that damn flag everywhere. Yeah,
absolutely everywhere. Yeah. I don't look. I lived down south before, and I will tell you, lived in the area of where Buccaneers fans should exist. There's not that many Buccaneers fans in those areas. I can tell you, they're either Falcons fans or Saints fans. There's no such thing as a real Buccaneers fan unless they literally fly the old orange creamsicle.
I love that. I love that old flag. I love that old color scheme.
Yeah, that's the one. That's when I love it. I mean, that's the one. If I see that flag, that's when I'm like, okay, that's a real Buccaneers fan. Now, if I see the brand new jersey, obviously there's going to be a 12 aside. I'm like, all right, well, I'll see you in 3 years when you're no longer a Bucs fan.
A bandwagon Buccaneers fan. We got him crawling out of the woodwork back when Mike Tomlin used to be the secondary coach over there. But they did win a Super Bowl back there with them as well, and they do have 2 now to their name since they won last year. Hopefully they don't return to the Super Bowl. I can't stand seeing Brady in Super Bowls. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the guy is the GOAT. As much as I hate the guy because he keeps beating me, he keeps beating everybody. I mean, he's been to 10 freaking Super Bowls. 10.
One of 4 quarterbacks to beat 32 teams. I mean, like, the dude's, as much as I don't want to appreciate him, like, it's like one of those things, like, it's like when I'm a Sacramento Kings fan basketball wise. Yeah. So I had to deal with Kobe my whole career. Of his whole career. And so I'm like, did not like watching Kobe play during his career. Respect the heck out of him though after his career. Like respect the career. Yeah. Same thing with Tom Brady. Hate watching it. We hate watching him succeed, but I'm like, I got to respect the career at the same time.
Yeah. And at least with the practice squad, or with practices going on in the injury situation, we're looking better for this game now. I know it seemed pretty dire going into this week, but Ben Roethlisberger is back practicing full after taking his day off on Wednesday. Cam Hayward's back after the vet day with his neck, and Devin Bush and Cam Sutton, who's both been out with groins, are back again practicing full. So we'll have to just find out a little bit later on this afternoon to see how everybody did on for today's practice. But Carlos Davis coming back in limited capacity for the past 2 days, as well as James Washington and Chase Claypool. They're still kind of up in the air until we really understand how they practice today. And then that'll, of course, show how they're going to be. And of course, then hopefully we'll see if we're going to be activating anybody off of injured reserve as well. So you being an outside fan, I know you're not specific. You cover every team. You cover every sport. I know you have an outside perspective of Pittsburgh. So I want to hear, because I talk to a lot of people that are homers, to tell you the truth. Like, I mean, I talk a lot of coaches, reporters, athletes that play, alumni to the Steelers. We have a big Steeler bias in this town. So
nothing wrong with that.
From an outside pair of eyes looking onto this team, how do you view this team this season?
I mean, this team, I think, lives and dies by what little success it can get on the offensive line. And I don't mean that in like a mean way, but when you get rid of every quality starter that you have on your team and only replace them with a Trey Turner, right? You're asking a whole lot for a guy like Najee Harris, who, by the way, I still think is going to be one of the best running backs to ever come out of Alabama. I think he's one of the most complete backs to ever come out.
Awesome.
For sure. But what he's able to do is that's going to be very based off of what this offensive line can give you, which is a lot of what can the pass rush give you on the other side. What can the other team's pass rush do to you? And that's been a concern. Obviously, you saw it with Buffalo up until that third quarter where it just turned around. I mean, that game was not fun to watch for anybody, safe to say. But this defense, I mean, I still think this defense for the Steelers is still something to be afraid of. No matter how you want to word it, that defense is terrifying. And you get the linebackers on the same page. Melvin Ingram, one of the best offseason pickups I think I've seen so far.
Yes, especially since he didn't have to be the guy as well. Yeah. Like, we're getting a rotational Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, and that's deadly. I mean,
yes.
You saw what Melvin Ingram was able to do giving full snaps, and now you give him breaks.
Right.
It's like, oh man, sign me up, because that was his big issue. Like, you couldn't keep him through third and fourth quarter the same amount of power that he was giving you in the first and second quarters in LA or San Diego, whatever they want to be called nowadays.
Truth.
But like, now you get him on a rotation. He's coming in on pass downs. That's fantastic. And I still stand by any man who plays without gloves on a defensive line. You don't want to mess with him.
No,
he's a terrifying man.
Great point. And also, picking up Joe Schobert, I don't know. He looks like he's starting to ease into this system. And especially like with our defense, I feel we can be a top 3 defense, borderline all-time special defense if we're healthy across the board. We had some issues with Hayden missing a game, Sutton missing a game. Of course, every single linebacker except for Schobert has missed a game thus far, and every single defensive lineman except for Hayward has missed a game thus far. But we're just starting to slowly get back in rotation. Those groins that Highsmith and Watt and Bush have are slowly starting to get better. And fortunately, at least for Bush, I was worried about him re-aggravating it in the last game. Because I thought he'd be out this entire week, but he's been practicing fully. So that's at least a good thing to see, because these are, especially the linebackers, they're quick twitch athletes, and they really rely on their groin explosion to be able to get off the snap as fast as possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, and Schobert, I mean, I talk about a guy who's had an underrated career, and a guy who came from Cleveland of all places to then Jacksonville, and Jacksonville didn't even give him really a shot. The problem with for him to go to Jacksonville is they play that nickel system, and you have to be a fast coverage linebacker, and Schobert is a old school middle linebacker. He'll tackle everybody inside the box. Outside of the box, you're kind of losing a lot there. But yeah, he's been a perfect addition to this team, especially when you have the bookends with Watt and, like I said, Ingram as well. I mean, you can kind of let Schobert just kind of roam the middle and do what he does, and it's been fantastic. But I mean, Minkah. Can we talk, like, Minkah is still...
Can we believe we just talked about everybody but Minkah?
Yeah, like, Minkah is just still... And it's like, it kills me, because Minkah is just that so under the radar until he makes a play, and then you're like, oh yeah, he's been around the ball all game. Like, you're just waiting. You just kind of know he's going to do something special every game.
Right.
And that's something that I don't think a lot of teams ever have, and you don't really ever see it in a player. Yeah. And I went to school at Auburn, Alabama. Auburn University. So I'm not a big Alabama guy when it comes to talking about Alabama football players, but there are 3 that I can tell you that I love, and one of them is Minkah, one is Najee Harris, and I'll leave the other one up for another day. But those 2 now.
Go ahead and say it. You're a full complete guy.
Julio Jones.
Oh gosh, Julio Jones is an all-time great.
Absolutely, but
oh my gosh, yeah.
He personally tore my heart out at Auburn, so
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
But those three are the 3 Alabama guys I can talk about. And Minkah, honestly, one of the best I've ever seen. Why Miami ever gave up on him, I'll never understand.
Well, you get those coaching changes and you get those different ideas. And I remember that coach coming in saying, Minkah, I want you to be a strong safety. And Minkah's like, I'm a free safety, man. I'm a rover. I can come down to the box every once in a while, but no, I don't want to bang my head every damn play. And I understand that.
Yeah, he's not Jamal Adams. Like, this is the thing, like Jamal Adams is a linebacker playing safety. Like, let's be honest, at this point. And that would have worked in Miami, but Minkah is, let that man roam. It's Brian Dawkins reincarnated, really, in a lot of ways. And
gosh, my all-time favorite player that wasn't a Steeler. I loved watching Brian Dawkins play for the Eagles. Oh, wow.
It's fantastic to watch Minkah. And then also there's another, Joe Hayden as well. I don't know how he's still doing it. Like, how is he still a number 1 corner at this point in time in his career? What trick he has up his sleeve, I have not figured out watching film on him. I don't know it yet. But man, this dude he's still able to do it. He's not as fast as he once was, but he is still absolutely just torching young, faster receivers than him. And he's just like, nah, I got him. Don't worry.
And he was never really a world burner. He never had that elite speed, but he's smart. He knows he's seen every route. He knows every situation. He's not going to get beat on a double move because he's got it set. He knows the situation. He's not going to, of course, bite on the short unless he has deep help. So like he understands his position within the defense, and he's fun to watch. He's one of those corners where I think once he gets, even slows down further, he would be one of the few ones to be able to transition to safety and still have a high caliber career and finish up a couple years at safety if he chooses to do so.
Do the Deion Sanders method, except for actually succeed as a safety?
Well, Deion Sanders was essentially a free safety playing corner anyway. It's not like he could tackle. Best color corner ever. I mean, I'm not going to discredit.
Deion is one of the most flawed, exceptional corners I've ever seen play the game. Like he is so exceptional in so many ways, and he's so flawed in so many other ways. Right. I've tried to explain this before, and it's like I can never get the right words for it, but that's just because you feel like you're sliding a guy who is a world-class athlete at the same time, but it's like, he's still flawed.
Plus, he was a phenomenal, all-pro returner, could play wide receiver as well. I mean, Rod Woodson is a person that also played in his era, was also a great returner, didn't return the years that he returned, like as many years. They took him off, like you play defense, could come in on some offensive plays as well. But I felt that Rod Woodson was always more of the complete corner than Deion Sanders. And then, of course, Rod Woodson was able to transition to the free safety role and do it exceptionally well on that championship, all historical 2000 Ravens defense.
I was gonna say, can you think of a better transitional time for him to get transition then on that Ravens team? That was right. To go from as long as he did as a corner, and then just naturally, all right, yep, I'm a safety now. And honestly, you could have fooled me. You could have fooled me and said he was a safety his whole career, and I'd be like, all right, yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, believe you.
He just knows how to play the game, and he's fast, and he anticipates plays, and he's seen everything. Like those old guys, you got Hayden out there; they've seen everything. Yeah, and when they've seen everything, they know what to expect.
And I think honestly, there's like you guys got Akilo Witherspoon early on in the offseason. He didn't practice this week, which is kind of surprising to me because he never really panned out with the Niners, and it was always kind of that weird, like he never had a mentor to really work with him. Like, I'm sorry, Richard Sherman is a cover 2 guy. He's not going to mentor a young man-to-man type of corner. But now you have him with Joe Hayden. Yeah, I'm waiting for Akilo Witherspoon to step up and be that guy that's going to step into a role for the Steelers. Not this year, definitely not this year, but like 2 to 3 years down the road. I mean, I don't see why he couldn't step into a number 2 role for this team with what Joe Hayden's able to teach. Like, you don't even have to ask Joe Hayden what to do. You just watch him and you'll learn something.
Yeah, and it was odd that he was out because of a coach's decision yesterday for practice. So we'll have to see whether he practices today. But tell me a little bit, like, I really don't know Witherspoon at all. Like, I know we picked him up. I know we got him for a 5th round draft pick in 2023. But tell me, like, what's so exciting about Witherspoon? What are his strengths? What are his flaws?
Yeah, so he has the speed to keep up with almost every receiver that's not a track star. Like, Anthony Schwartz in the AFC North is probably the only receiver that will burn him. And that's just because he is Anthony Schwartz is an actual track star. Yeah. Everybody else, Hollywood Brown, he can keep up with Hollywood Brown. And he has the height and the size. Like, he has that size to match up with him. And he has the long arms. Like Joe Hayden, that's what Joe Hayden has that's so successful, is he has a longer wingspan than he is tall.
Oh, yeah.
So this is similar with Akilo Witherspoon. He has a longer wingspan than he is tall. Wow. And that's something that, as a corner, you can't get lucky enough if you're a corner, if you have that kind of ability to have that wingspan. It's just makes things so much easier. You can hand fight and still get the ball at the same time. And that's just the one thing that you're waiting for with Witherspoon is, can he take that college mentality where you're constantly face guarding, and can he learn how to still guard a man heads up while turning around for the ball, hand fighting properly? Yeah. Obviously not fully extending, none of that. Like, that's what you're waiting for him to learn. And he never really panned out again, like I said, in San Francisco. And that's really just because there was nobody to mentor him in that situation. But now here, you guys got him from Seattle in preseason for that 5th rounder. I mean, that's a steal if he can pan out, even give you a number 2 corner situation. I think that's huge.
That would be great. I mean, we've done that. It seems like this past all season too, especially picking up like Dwayne Haskins, players that were highly touted, very athletic, great spark players, small, awesome, players in college, and trying to see if Tomlin's system in mentoring and coaching can turn these players into assets.
Yeah.
So, and it definitely helped for Minkah. I mean, I don't think Minkah would have been, well, I do think Minkah would have been an all-pro no matter where he was playing, as long as they kept him at the free safety position. But it seems like he's more comfortable, obviously, here in this situation. And a lot of players say that as well, like Ingram falling in love with Pittsburgh and the coaching staff. Same thing with Schobert as well. So it's, to me, it seems like they're doing a good job of scouting the league for the talent that they were looking for on draft day. Didn't necessarily fall to them, but still they're doing a really good job of just still maintaining, just in the back of their minds, if that player becomes available, we're going to make a move on them because we really like them in the scouting process.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned Tomlin and just kind of that a lot of guys rave about him. Like, I think my only complaint I ever had about Mike Tomlin is when it comes to tactics, the X's and O's, I don't feel as comfortable with them. But when it comes to players and getting along with players and kind of making them comfortable, I don't think there's a better player coach in all of NFL. I mean, I'd even say the last decade that I can think of, that there's just been, he just works so well with his players. His mentality is player first. Like, he is all about his players. And it's fantastic to watch from the outside, because I'm like, as frustrated as I might get X's and O's wise with Mike Tomlin, I'm like, when it comes to your players, I love it. Like, you're standing by your players, and that's always great for me.
Nice. And I know you were mentioning Najee Harris earlier. You love him as far as for talent coming out of Alabama. Finally, nice. Week 5, having his first 100-yard rushing game. I know he's had 100 total yards in a previous game, but how did it look like to you watching that game? Because, I mean, we've seen, as a Steeler fan, I've watched every single game twice at least. And the blocking scheme, there's always just like one little thing wrong in the blocking scheme every game that just scuttles the play, or they get pre-snap penalties, or they get a hold and they're already starting like back behind the sticks. But this past game, everything seemed to be clicking for everyone at the same time. They had some great holes. And obviously just statistic wise, we haven't had a Najee run over 60 yards in a game before. And the Denver Broncos haven't allowed a running back to run over 60 yards on that defense yet. So what did they do right?
It's funny because you hit on that point where there's always that one small thing that they just were missing.
Yeah.
And it's exactly right. I mean, you talk about this right side of the line, bringing in Trey Turner, a guy that is the veteran presence there now. Kendrick Green inside as the center. You have a core of 4 on the outside who he needs a solidifying factor next to him, which is what Trey Turner will bring. Yeah. And you saw that. And that's where I finally saw, like, Okorafor, he's a walking penalty sometimes. But when he is blocking, when he is getting to go downhill and go hit a guy, whether it be on the first or second level or just pinning the edge, he is fantastic with it. And then you get Green in there in the middle. He will, in the best ways possible, I can say, he will maul a man. Yeah. And it be okay. And it's just you finally saw that kind of come together, and then you see Najee wasn't second guessing his gaps. Right. He saw his gaps, and he was in them and out, and then next thing you know, he's making a man miss. Yeah. And that's always what he's going to do. If he can get to the second level, he will make the first man miss at the second level almost every time. I mean, it's insane. I mean, really, his talent level for how he's built like a wide receiver. He runs with his pads lower than most running backs or fullbacks even do. And he's not straight up, and I don't think I've ever seen him get blown back ever. I think the worst hit I saw was in the college football playoffs last season. And it's when he was spinning off of a tackle and a guy just happened to catch him. Yeah. And that was the worst tackle I've ever seen him take in 4 years of watching him in college. And now this year, and that was one time. And it's the same thing so far. Everything I've watched in the NFL so far. And you saw that, like, he'll fight for the extra yards, but he's not going to get himself in trouble. Yeah. So, if he sees he's not going to get any more yards, he will go down. The ball will be safe. And that's just an assurance you have with Najee. And I think everything just came together last week with that offensive line, especially the right side of that offensive line. And that's usually always your power side, but even more so now, that's going to be the power side. Like, I couldn't think of another Steelers team where they've only had 19 rushing first downs and they didn't get half of those until week 5 ever. Right. In my memory, I've not seen a Steelers team not be able to run the ball as badly as this Steelers team has. And this is great to see. Like, this is the first time I saw it, and I'm like, yes, like that is what I want to see for Najee Harris. And on top of that, I mean, you talk about, he's had 100-yard all-purpose game too. So now that's going to be the next step, right? You get the 100-yard rushing. Now wait for the 100-yard rushing with the 100-yard receiving, and that's going to be you talk about having to replace Juju. This is going to be the way you're going to have to do it. Is Najee's going to have to help out in that pass game, and I still say he's one of the most talented complete backs I've seen coming out of Alabama.
So before we start talking about the absence of Juju, I just want to get your opinion since you're a college guy and you know stuff. I was big on Travis Etienne. Obviously, unfortunately, he's out for the year with that injury because I think he's talented. And I thought that he would be the better pass catcher out of the backfield, thinking of like a Le'Veon Bell type situation. Yeah. I am pleasantly surprised with how good of a route runner and how good Najee's hands are. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I wasn't expecting to see this quickly. Was this something that he showed in Alabama?
Yeah. So he actually, when he was a freshman, he would actually get split out wide.
Wow.
Because he was built like he is 6 feet plus. I mean, like the man's a monster. Like when you just look at him, you're like, that doesn't make sense as a running back, but it makes sense for him when you watch him run. And he actually split out wide a lot of his freshman year, and so he was running that slot. You mentioned Le'Veon Bell, that exact slot type of routes, the Texas routes, the quick ins, the quick outs, those type of routes as a receiving type of running back because they had so many running backs there. I mean, that Alabama team just rotates running backs in and out. So you saw Najee Harris there, and then when he got actually put in the backfield, you actually got to see all of that talent he learned as a receiver being put into the backfield as well. And it's just wow. It was small things here and there. And then like last year, you really saw it. If you watch the college football playoff at all, it was like one-handed catch after one-handed catch after one-handed catch in traffic. You're just like
hurdling over people.
Yeah, just like this doesn't. Like, that's just not normal for a running back to do. He has some receiver talent, and then it's like it all goes back to those first couple years. And
wow,
he took the challenge Nick Saban gave him of like, you'll find if you can work yourself hard enough, you will find a place on this team. And he took that challenge to heart, and man, he's been destroying it ever since.
Worked himself into a first-round running back, something that Pro Football Focus doesn't like, but something that I, as a Steeler fan, am happy to have because there's no way he was going to last past the first round.
Oh, he was actually my prediction to go to the Steelers when I did my big board for the Steelers. That was because I was looking at it, I'm like, you lose James Conner, what are you going to do there?
Right.
And obviously the choice was an offensive lineman or Najee Harris. And if Najee Harris is available, I said get Najee Harris. That was my choice. So I'm glad they did it. I mean, that was like a feather in my cap. If you
yeah, that's great.
I make a big board and it's like 1 out of 27 hit. And I'm like, all right, we're good.
Well, at least you got the Steelers. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's all we care about.
Yeah.
So now that we are without Juju Smith-Schuster, like you just started touching on, Kelcey, is how are we going to fill his snaps? And, positionally, first thing you got to worry about is who's going to be playing that slot position. Obviously, he was a big slot. James Washington may be called in that role. Eric Ebron may be called in that role as big slot options, big bodied options. And Ray McCloud is an actual slot receiver. He's more the quick twitch, shorter slot receivers that we're used to seeing around the league, getting open with quickness and speed. But then, the tight ends you've got rotating in too. It seems like Steelers are pretty locked into having Pat Freiermuth and Zach Gentry be their two tight ends in their running sets. So you can see both of them with increased options. Freiermuth probably more so because he's probably going to be on the field more than Eric Ebron. And then there's still a player that for the life of me, I still don't know why we haven't utilized him yet as a receiver for more than running decoy because they miss him wide open every time. And that's Derek Watt, our fullback. And we barely run a fullback on that. But we have a lot of mix of talent, I guess, to get some extra touches. Who do you like? Who don't you like, at least with being able to fill in for Juju?
So I want to start on your tight ends because you mentioned Ebron and you mentioned Freiermuth there, and I gotta say Ebron, I love Ebron as a off the field person. On the field, I always struggle. I mean, I can never get Detroit Eric Ebron out of my mind, and outside of Andrew Luck Eric Ebron, I've yet to see a quality Eric Ebron. I mean, that was the best Eric Ebron I've ever seen, and I've yet to see anything from him even remotely close. And so that makes me worry about, you mentioned putting him out in the slot as a big receiver type. That might help him in some of those situations if you still run the two tight end sets. But I don't think he's your option. I do look at somebody like James Washington, Ray McCloud. I think moving Claypool inside the slot, which is where he played at Notre Dame, I think that is a better option, and then using James Washington on the outside.
Because that's his natural position anyway, that Z receiver spot.
Yeah, and I think those would be quality options. I mean, obviously, when you're doing this, I do think you have to consider in with all the touches you're going to get to Najee Harris, because you're going to have to use him. It's not so much of an option of like we're going to draw up plays for Najee. It's more like the left side of the offensive line broke down. Where's my dump off type of situation? So you're going to get a lot more burn for Najee, which is good and bad. But I do think that you mentioned Derek Watt, which is kind of the unsung hero of this offense right now. He blocks very well.
The never sung hero yet.
Wide open.
Yes, he does.
When he catches the ball in the flats, he turns and he looks like he's he actually looks like TJ really running the ball, and that's a good thing. I mean that in the best thing possible, because he looks like a natural athlete running the ball. He doesn't look like if JJ were to have the ball and be waddling down the sideline. Like, he actually looks like a natural pass catcher when he has the ball in his hands, and that's something that it will play into effect. But I do think Gentry especially is going to be one. I think Gentry and Watt are going to be the two that you see the biggest uptick for.
Yeah.
Everybody that owns Ebron in fantasy football is going to hate this, but he is not going to do anything. Yeah. I think he's going to stay at the exact same touches he gets, maybe get those red zone touches. Hopefully he can bring some down. We'll see. I don't know how much anybody trusts him with that, though. That's the hard thing with Ebron. Is like, how much do you really trust him to catch the ball nowadays? I don't know. Right. But Deontay Johnson is, and as like I said, as long as Claypool and as long as and Washington are healthy, I think those are going to be your guys. You see the biggest uptick, but then it's going to be Gentry as well. You saw the 13-yard gain he had last week. Yes. Very easy 13-yard gain, by the way.
And he's a monster of a guy. Like, he's unmissed. You can't miss him on the field. He's giant.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And then Watt out of the backfield. I think San Francisco does something really good, which is use check. Just in single back sets by himself as a single back in passing formations, and he'll actually run routes. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing with Derek Watt, to give Najee Harris a rest and still keep the same formation, same personnel out there. So that could be – there's options there. There's some free agents options too, but those are kind of, do you want to risk it situations? And I don't think you really want to risk it right now if you're Pittsburgh.
And there are some interesting free agent options. I went down the board. I saw I just don't know who's healthy and who's not, because, Larry Fitzgerald would be an interesting fit since he went to Pittsburgh for college. Sorry, my cat's here rubbing into my beard. She loves my beard. For everybody on the vidcast, you can see Lexi just fall in love with my beard. And then I saw that Edelman was on there as well as an option. And there was one more guy that I liked, and I can't recall. It wasn't Brown. Oh, goodness. I'll have to look it up, but at least are these people injured? What's going on with them? Are they just at the end of their career, or do they not have anything left?
Yeah, Larry's one of those guys like you always look at. Obviously, as a Pitt native, Pitt Panther, I should say. Right. You're like, man, that would be a great return story for him. Because I still remember the old days where he was on NCAA football's cover as the old with the Pitt Panther stuff. Right. I remember that day, but I think that would be interesting. I just don't think you get enough burn out of him, but. There is a trade that they could pull, and that's somebody that's been shopped around right now, and that's Chicago with Allen Robinson.
Oh, yeah?
Allen Robinson, obviously, you had the whole offseason issues with him. You haven't heard a whole lot yet, but there are still rumors coming out of Chicago of them potentially having some trade questions about Allen Robinson. Okay. And that could be somebody they might reach out to. And now the problem becomes, who do you trade for him? Can you trade picks only and not give up too much of your future? Or, what are you going to have to give up for him? And that's where the big question comes in is do you have enough to give up for him without hemorrhaging your team now?
Wow. So. The other one that I was trying to remember was Golden Tate. And it seems like every offseason when he's a free agent, Steeler fans start talking about, hey, Golden Tate. And he would kind of fit that mold pretty well as being that big inside short-handed receiver.
Reminds me so much of Hines Ward. Really. Right. Just like Hines Ward reincarnated, just wears number 15 instead.
Nice point. Yeah, I love me some Hines Ward, probably my all-time favorite receiver ever to play for this team. I just loved how he kind of rewrote what it was to be a tough football player at wide receiver.
Oh, yeah. I'd put his training film. If I want to teach a receiver how to block, I put his film on. Here you go. Do what Hines Ward does. He comes in motion, and he will block anybody, no matter how big they are. Is that Warren Sapp? Yeah, he'll block them. No worries.
I loved it because I think he's the only wide receiver ever that the opposing defenses would complain about being blocked by or getting hit by. And he put Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Sharp and everybody's heads on a swivel in Baltimore when he's coming across the middle to lay the wood on somebody. And it seemed like it was like an extra advantage because like they were like worried about getting hit on defense.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Carlos Dansby tells a story about when he was playing Pittsburgh and he was there in the middle. He thought it was a read option or like a run or a pass play to the right. Yeah. There's actually a handoff to the right. And out of nowhere, he says Hines Ward comes out from the opposite side and just plows him over. And he got up thinking he was a lineman that hit him. Like he's looking for a lineman to push. And it's Hines Ward standing over him,
smiling.
Compared to Carlos Dansby, you're just like, that's a much smaller individual than Carlos Dansby was. And,
right.
And it's just one of the funniest stories I think I've ever heard about Hines Ward, where he just like blown off his feet and everything.
Right. Oh, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. I hadn't heard that one before.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. One thing I want to start touching base now about with you is now we have the Seahawks game coming up. The whole reason why you're going to be in Pittsburgh. I know they've got their, a bunch of injuries that they're dealing with as well, but none bigger than quarterback Russell Wilson, who's going to be out with his right finger injury that just had some surgery done on that. Probably going to be out for like 6 weeks or so. We obviously know that's impactful. We obviously know Gino Smith is no Russell Wilson, but what can Seattle do to be competitive with Gino Smith as their quarterback?
Gino Smith is a very weird topic because if you ask ESPN, they hate him. Absolutely hate Gino Smith.
Uh-huh.
But if you look at Gino Smith's stats career-wise, outside of this broken jaw year, he has not been a bad overall player by any means in his career. I mean, it's not the greatest stat line in the world. You look at, he's 12-19 overall in his career, but how many of those years were wasted on the Jets?
Right.
Is a big issue there. And when you look at the rest of it, 58% career completion rate, there's some current starters in the league that don't even give you 55%.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue. He gives you 30 touchdowns to 37 interceptions in his career. So yeah, there's some complaints about maybe not being there with the ball, but again, Rex Ryan was his coordinator for a while there. So how much is that? How much is actually running a real offense? What I saw from him in the end of the Thursday night was a very competitive Gino who knows exactly how this offense runs and is more than willing to be patient. Yeah. And it's eerily similar to kind of the Drew Brees factor when Drew Brees left San Diego and came over to New Orleans. And it was just like when he took over for an injured Phillip Rivers, you kind of saw the same thing. Like, wow, that guy's really competitive. What's happening here? Yeah. And then he ended up eventually moving to New Orleans and having the career he's had. But Gino Smith is stats eerily similar to what Drew Brees was when all of that started with San Diego. So I'm not going to say he's the same thing, but I'm going to say that there is a possibility with that offense that he has around him. He still has weapons like
DK. I mean, come on, he's all world.
So I'm not. Yeah. So here's the thing with DK. I don't even think he's the best receiver on his team. I give Tyler Lockett that nod still, and it's all down to the mental side of the thing. I don't think DK's perfected his route tree and his option routes well enough. Unlike Tyler Lockett, who, I mean, think about how many times we've seen Tyler Lockett make insane catches on sidelines where he literally owns the next gen stat records for lowest completion percentage while still making the catch.
Wow.
Like it's insane how many times this man is able to get open and catch the ball. And the one thing I think Russell was falling in love with was the DK Metcalf factor, which is just throw it up downfield. DK is going to go get it.
Yeah.
And he literally was ignoring Tyler Lockett on short routes. And that's where you see Gino. You see Gino actually hitting this. You see a real route tree actually being run, I should start with, by the Seattle offense. Whereas before it was a deep post and you have an over route from the outside receiver. And then those are the two routes are running, and it's basically a deep option route and Russ is going to throw it up somewhere. Now you see actual route trees being run. You see proper routes and proper techniques being used by receivers, and Gino's going to thrive on that. And that's what's scary about that is nobody's seen Gino in 3 years.
Yeah.
And
true.
So, I mean, outside of
couple spot,
outside of what he just did Thursday, I mean, really. And so there's a lot of unknowns. If Seattle's going to keep it competitive, the biggest thing is Gino needs to protect the ball. And they need to have one of their backup running backs, because they're going to be running backups out there for the running back spot, needs to be able to contain or be able to hold on to the ball and give you at least 50 yards if you're Seattle. The good thing for Pittsburgh is you don't have to worry about a whole lot of that defensively because you are really good against the run.
Yeah.
And they, like I said, they're going to be running a lot of backups at you. And as long as you contain them, the biggest thing is just going to be containing them inside the middle. If you let them break out, then you have to worry about it. But they're not going to really burn you down the sideline unless they get on a deep, like an out route or something out of the backfield, and they're just wide open. So, Pittsburgh should be fine.
I think that Chris Carson would have been the guy to go, being the productive back there and getting more of a load. But the problem is he's injured with a neck right now, and we don't know if he's even going to play as well. Yeah. So they're kind of like getting the wrong people injured at the wrong time on offense to be able to kind of like counteract and give Gino a little bit more time. Do you think their backups would have a chance? Is there some good talent there that they can expect to be productive in this set with Gino?
Running back wise, not so much. Honestly, I think it's just, I don't know. Then again, with Pete Carroll, I never know what to expect. Honestly, Pete Carroll, he's the same guy that on 4th and 1, when you have Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl, you decide not to run the ball. You
right. Oh my gosh.
So I don't honestly. I feel like the Seahawks always have that one guy in their backfield, quartet, that just comes out of nowhere every season because of an injury, and he'll break a game for 100 yards. And I hate to say this has that all written out on it. Like there's always that one trap moment. This might be a trap moment like that, where one of these running backs comes out here and just no-name guy just comes out for 100 yards. You're just like, what? Like, where did you come from type of situation? That is a possibility. I'm not going to take that away from the Seahawks, because to be all things fair, but it's unlikely. I do think it's unlikely that this run game really gets much traction in Pittsburgh, especially.
Well, I'd have to think that Alex Collins, as the change of pace back, would be the next man up if Chris can't go. But they also have DJ Dallas and Travis Homer. I mean, like I said, it's not
a whole lot of girth that you're running at me, and not a whole lot of a change of pace. So that's why, I say keep him contained as long as you keep him contained. Alex Collins, I don't think that man's ran more than a 10-yard run in 4 years. I think, since he was at Arkansas. Yeah. So.
How is their offensive line this year, Seattle's offensive line, at keeping their quarterbacks upright?
It's a struggle. It's been a struggle for him. It changes with Gino coming in because he doesn't hold the ball as long as Russ. Russell will have that factor. Like I said, he falls in love with the DK Metcalf factor, which is you have to hold on the ball to let a guy get 40 yards downfield. Yeah. I don't think. I think with Gino, you're not going to see that. I mean, you're going to see a couple of those occasions, but it's usually going to be on play action. So there will be a little bit of decoy to the whole method. But if you're Pittsburgh's pass rush, it's very simple. Just mind your gaps. Mind your gaps, and you'll be fine. And get your hands in the passing lanes. Gino is one of the worst about reading the passing lanes when he goes to throw it. That's been his kind of big thing all his career. He will throw it into a defender that has his hands up almost every time. And it's shocking to me. Like, I'm like, how do you continuously do that? And it's happening. I don't get it, but.
So it looks like for Seattle to really be competitive in this game, they've got to do it on defense. Who do the Steelers have to look out for defensively to kind of make sure that that's the person that's not going to disrupt and give them an advantage against our offense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, if you're on Seattle's defense and you're trying to make an impact, the biggest person you're going to have to look out for is Jamal Adams. I mentioned him earlier. He is a safety, but he plays linebacker. He plays in the box. Yeah. He is downhill, full speed ahead.
Was that the guy that came over from the Jets?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So El Presidente is the president is his nickname. So
yeah.
Look, he's a fantastic player. Does not have a pick on the season though. So actually, I don't think in his entire career he has a pick even in the NFL for a safety, for a top tier safety. That never happened.
Who is rated higher than Minkah Fitzpatrick on like every single PFF and Madden crap they've got out there, but still way less interceptions than Minkah.
I'll leave my PFF complaints at home on this one, but they have their own ranking system and good on them for that. But I question it a lot.
Okay.
But look, Jamal Adams he is a fantastic athlete. There's no getting around that. He's great and against big bodied tight ends and things like that. But when you have faster receivers like the Steelers do, you don't really have to worry about that as much. Chase Claypool, he's probably going to see Jamal Adams on about 10% of the passing opportunities. And that's just because they're going to roll some weird blitz out there. But he's going to be the number one guy I look at on this team, and I'm like, he can't beat me if I'm the Steelers. Like, that is the number one guy. Any run scheme, because he will fly down the field, and he will be the first one to hit Najee Harris on any type of run. And that's just the way he is. And nothing against Bobby Wagner, who's there. Bobby Wagner, obviously, I'm a big fan of Bobby Wagner as well. But when he's going to get sucked in a lot of times by this offensive line anyways, he's going to be already guaranteed to be blocked by one of the offensive linemen, or at least touched by one of the offensive linemen. But really, the big one is Jamal Adams, who's that added person in the box. He's going to be your big issue, I think, for this entire game.
And interestingly, I did look up his stats while we're talking here, Kelcey. Adams has 2 career interceptions, one in 2018, one in 2019. So he's putting up Terrell Edmonds' interception numbers, albeit playing better angles, probably getting more passes defensed and getting a lot more tackles than our Edmonds.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So
it's so crazy considering he's ranked so high and he only has 2 career interceptions. Like, for a safety,
right. And this is crazy because we just had an hour blow by, man. I love talking football with you, Kelcey, and I can do it anytime, and we will be doing it this weekend at the Steeler Nation Tailgate. And what's the name of the Chromecast we're going to be on?
Yeah, so we're going to be on Colorcast, on the Colorcast app.
Oh, sorry, Colorcast.
Yep.
Damn you, Google.
So yeah, guys, check that out. If you guys have social media, check them out on Twitter at Colorcast app or on Instagram at Colorcast app. The link to get that downloaded is right there on their bios there. Or as you said, it's colorc.ast.
Yeah, colorca.st.
Yep, there you go. So yeah, that'd be how you get them online as well. But yeah, so we'll be there, and it's actually going to be, I believe, on the Steeler Tailgate show. I think is what it's actually going to show up on the. I was talking to Evan about what he's going to make the tile. It was one thing this one day, and then 2 things the next day, and I was like, all right, well, we'll just see what it is when we get there. If nothing else, you'll see us on the just chatting or the Color Zone cast.
Yes, it should be in the talk button. If you click on the talk heading, then it should show the Steeler Tailgate.
Yeah, worst case scenario, just check us out on Twitter and you'll find the link to it right there. We tweet it out every time we go live. So there you go.
Perfect. And thanks so much for joining me on the show, Kelcey. Steeler Nation, obviously tons more of total rounded knowledge of the NFL than myself. I am strictly an AFC North Pittsburgh Steeler guy, but loved interacting with him. I know we can go out and watch his High-Low Sports podcast. Follow them on Instagram and Colorcast at High-Low Sports and Twitter at high_low_sports. And of course, follow him directly on Twitter and Instagram at KRCOYNE. Kelcey, thanks so much for being on the show, man.
I appreciate it. And just a fair warning, if you follow my personal account, you're probably going to get more dog pictures than you're going to get of anything else. That's where my dog spam goes. And my sports knowledge goes to the High-Low account. So, no, nice. I appreciate it. This was absolutely amazing. I can't wait for Sunday. We're going to have an absolute blast.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you in Steeler Nation. Don't forget what's going to be there Sunday. This signed Polamalu jersey. You can win this. Make sure you jump on the Colorcast. Go to Colorcast Twitter at Colorcast app to retweet that and get your chance to win this signed Polamalu jersey, which is in my hands right now, that I will have at the game on Sunday. So good luck, Steeler Nation. We'll be looking forward to talking to you, and I'll see you then soon on Sunday then, Kelcey.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Cheers. And Steeler Nation, be sure to follow our sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, at tseshop.com. Join our Colorcast, the Steeler Nation Colorcast, at 7 p.m. on Monday evenings. We just changed the time from 3 to 7. Follow our vidcast 1 p.m. on Tuesday after the press conference. I know that's tweeted across all of our platforms. It goes across all of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And read our great articles at SteelerNation.com. Tweet us at Steeler Nation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the podcast Twitter at _SN Podcast, or over on Instagram at Steeler Nation Podcast. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Colorcast at SN Stryker, and Stryker is spelled with a Y. Thank you for joining us for the Steeler Nation podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises, part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Network. I'm your host, G Stryker, with Kelcey Coyne, rooting along with you, as always. Go Steelers!